then you got the iPhone 3G, which is something of a different beast because it's not a Windows mobile phone. Obviously it's Apple's proprietary operating system. And, this is really designed to be much more consumer friendly / foolproof, or much more locked down, depending on your point of view. What you can do with it, what you can customize, what you can add on to it is really regulated by Apple more than, Microsoft doesn't regulate Windows Mobile nearly as much. So you've got the App Store where you can, add on applications and, all kinds of stuff on it, not nearly as much as is on, available for Windows Mobile. But the thing about the App Store is that it's all locked down by Apple in the sense that you can get right to it. You set up your iTunes, account, and your credit card's stored, so there's one place to go to get new applications. You can get it directly from the phone. With Windows Mobile, there are places you can go to directly download and install applications, but you kind of have to know what you're doing a little bit more. So again, it's either consumer friendly and foolproof, or dumbed down and locked down, depending on your point of view. You can see the flicking here works. It's just there's just a little more eye candy than there is on the other phones. Not by much. I mean, if you look especially at the Touch Diamond, the Touch Diamond is great looking. The interface is fantastic. The flicking works well. It's just not quite as smooth as the iPhone is. You also, with the iPhone, of course, get the iTunes Store built in. Similar to the App Store, you can buy and download music, but you have to be on a Wi-Fi connection to do it. As I mentioned, the iPhone is 3G. As you can see, I don't have 3G right here. Apple, AT&T, whoever is having the issues, having issues. And where I live, there was a study that I recently read. I wrote about it on my blog on phonedog.com, that the San Francisco Bay Area is getting hit really hard with 3G problems. And when I do get 3G, it's slow, not much faster than Edge, slower than EVDU phones I've tried on Sprint and Verizon. And, right now I don't have 3G at all. So, that's why I personally have my old first-gen iPhone that I use as my personal phone, unlocked on T-Mobile, because it's Edge only, and that's fine. But lots of custom software being developed, and you've got these cool little widgets. There's a Facebook widget that you can use. You don't need to see my inbox, but you can see my friends. That's fine. So, there's a Facebook app that's kind of cool. There are, all kinds of other apps. Remote is a new one that's pretty cool. You can control your iTunes on your computer from the iPhone. And I'm not saying that things like this don't exist on Windows Mobile. They do. But the thing about, the Apple ecosystem is it's all right there. It's very, tied up with a shiny ribbon for the consumer to use. So there you go. Let's one thing I want to compare directly on these three phones is the messaging interface. And the thing about touchscreen phones, it's not that it's hard to read messages. It's hard to write messages, or it can be. So we'll look at the interface here. On the two Windows Mobile phones, it's fairly similar. You've got the Touch Diamond is a little bit more cleaned up. The fonts are a little bit rounder, what have you. You might actually like the Samsung version better. I kind of prefer the Touch Diamond, but they're very similar. And in each case, you've got kind of a SureType style 20-button keypad. And you can switch to different modes. So on the Touch Diamond, you hit this button down here, and you switch from ABC to T9 for predictive text. So if I'm in straight typing, it's one button per... Get back here. So with straight text, it's one tap per key. So if I want an R, I hit it twice. We'll type in the word roof. Or if I'm in T9 mode, then it's T9 style, and it gives you your choices as you go, and there's roof. You can also switch with this little button down here to other input methods. So you can go to full QWERTY, and you've got the full QWERTY. It's pretty cramped. With a stylus, you're going to be able to do it, With your fingers, I think it's going to be a little more tricky for me to type the word roof. That's not too bad. Or you can go to phone keypad, and then you can just do your straight up T9 like you're used to. So we'll space, and we'll go roof. Or you can switch back to straight text mode also if you want. You can also go keyboard, which gives you a real tiny little keyboard. And there's even a choice for other input methods. So you can handwrite your way. And instead of roof, I've got koi, because I have terrible handwriting. On the Omnia, we're looking at a fairly similar setup. Same button right down at the bottom. You'll recognize, similar choices. Samsung phone pad will give you T9 style. Oh, that'll give you T9 without the numbers, so T9 style. The Samsung keypad is what we just saw, I believe, with the 2 letters per button. Samsung keyboard is your full keyboard, a little bit bigger because it's a bigger screen. And then you can also do the tiny keyboard. You can do the handwriting, all that kind of stuff. So if we go to the Samsung keypad, and I will try to type the word, oh, I'm up in the 2, let's go down there. Roof, works pretty well. Do a space, take off, T9, and then you're doing 1 tap at a time, so I accidentally hit the P. You get the idea. Now in the Omnia, of course, you can also go widescreen, the accelerometer, and then you've got yourself, a little more room to play with, particularly if you go into the keyboard mode. You've got a little more room now if you want to do 2-thumb typing like I tend to do. Spacebar should be in the middle, if you ask me, but there you go. So you have to kind of play with it and figure out which solution works best for you. I personally, none of them are quite perfect, but you have options, and you can find the one that works. With the iPhone 3G, or with either iPhone, you basically have one way you can enter stuff. This is the Apple keypad, that's it. On the one hand, it works well. It's a sensitive screen, and it has really good predictive text. Apple has this algorithm that involves, which section, the keyboard's divided into different sections, and it checks which section and the patterns you're using, and et cetera, et cetera. So, I 2-thumb type on it, it works fairly well. On the other hand, you can't go widescreen, which is a drag. So I think, it's just a matter of this is the way you do it. There's no other options also. There's no T9, there's no handwriting, there's no 20-key compact QWERTY. This is it. QWERTY, horizontal orientation, that's it. What's weird and frustrating about this to iPhone owners is that if you're in the web browser and you want to type in a URL, you can go widescreen. So why not, make this keyboard available in messaging as well? All right, so look, if you want to be a big baller, I don't know why I keep using that phrase. I think it's just kind of goofy. If you want to get a big shot, big time, top of the line cell phone, you've got a lot of options these days. We just took a look at 3 of them. Samsung Omnia, so look, if you want to be a big shot, a big time player, a big baller, whatever, I like that phrase, big baller, I don't know why, it sounds kind of goofy. If you want to have a big shot cell phone, you've got a lot of options these days. We just took a look at 3 of them, 3 that I think are really right on the cutting edge right now. Samsung Omnia, Apple iPhone 3G, HTC Touch Diamond. Now, which phone, if you're interested in one of these 3, what's my advice? Which one's right for you? They all have strengths, they all have weaknesses. I'll get a little closer here so you can see. We'll start out with the iPhone because that's kind of the easiest. If you want something that's going to work right out of the box, simple to set up, and it's pretty much what you see is what you get in terms of there's not a lot hidden underneath, there's not a lot of options beyond, buying stuff, downloading stuff from Apple through the iTunes Store and the App Store. The iPhone 3G is really a great choice. It's easy to use, the touchscreen works well, The hardware works well as long as you've got the most recent firmware and you're not in an area like San Francisco where I am, where the 3G network is just hammered and you can't get on. But the web browser's great, the email's great, it's easy to set up. It's got a regular headphone jack so you can use the iPod. You know, all around it does a lot of things really well. Power users are going to scoff at the lack of stereo Bluetooth, the lack of MMS messaging, the lack of video capture on the camera, and these are serious issues. But if you just want, you know, a touchscreen phone that's really fun to use, does a lot of stuff, and you know you're into music and photos on your phone, iPhone's a good choice. Now, if you're a Windows Mobile user, or you just want something a little bit different, you know, we've got the HTC Touch Diamond and the Samsung Omnia here. The differences here are basically, you know, I would say that the Omnia is kind of more for the power user who wants the ultimate in specs. I mean, you've got a 5 megapixel camera with flash, with VGA recording. You know, you've got the touchscreen and the optical mouse. I mean, this is whiz-bang deluxe. The Touch Diamond is a little more polished in terms of being user-friendly. You've got the TouchFlow 3D interface, which just hides a lot more of Windows Mobile underneath. Now, you might subscribe to the saying that, you know, you can put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig, which means you've still got Windows Mobile underneath. I'm not saying Windows Mobile is a pig, but I am saying, you know, that eventually, if you use the Touch Diamond long enough, you may have to get down to the nitty-gritty Windows Mobile. But in the meantime, you know, everything else on it is really, it's dressed up really nicely. It's the prettiest Windows Mobile device you're going to find in terms of the screen. What you give up is a little bit in terms of specs, and also, you know, it's a much smaller display physically, even though it's high resolution. It's a smaller display than the Omnia. Also, the Omnia is a little bit more finger-friendly. They both come with a stylus, but actually the Omnia, it doesn't have anywhere on the phone to store the stylus. And it's got, you know, Samsung calls this interface with the widgets on the side, they call it the TouchWiz interface because they want you to touch it. Even though HTC calls this the TouchFlow 3D, they do give you a place right here on the phone to store your stylus. And, you know, it does, I did find that the phone works a little bit better with the stylus than with that. I would also say about both of these two phones that unless you absolutely have to have one of them right now and you don't care how much you pay and you don't care what you're missing out on, I would wait a little bit before buying. There's an almost 100% likelihood that we're going to see Touch Diamond on some US carriers very soon, probably starting with Sprint. Also, this version does not have the US band 3G on it, and I think we'll probably see, it's already passed the FCC, a US 3G band. So if you're on AT&T and you get this, you won't get 3G, but there should be a version out soon that supports it, as well as probably some carrier versions that'll be a little bit cheaper if you're willing to sign a contract. As far as Omnia goes, lots of rumors about it coming to AT&T. Also heard some rumors about a non-smartphone version of, you know, more or less the same phone, but not Windows Mobile, but with the TouchWiz, coming to another US carrier. There's a rumor going around about the Touch version, the non-smartphone version, the T919 coming to T-Mobile sometime soon with the 5 megapixel camera, all that stuff. We'll see. But in either case, if you're looking at one of these, you know, hold off for a little bit, see if there's a US version so you get all that high-speed data. In any case, you get any of these three phones and you got two things you know for sure. Number one is you spent a fair amount of money. Number two is you've got, you know, really just about the state-of-the-art in cell phone technology. Is that worth it? Do you need it? No, you don't need it. Is it worth it? That's up to you. Which one's the best for you? Only you can decide. That being said, I'm going to go play with them all some more because, you know, that's my job. Until next time, I'm Noah from PhoneDog.com. Thanks for watching. As always, there's much, much more on the Touch Diamond, the Omnia, the iPhone 3G, and all the other phones on PhoneDog.com, so check it out. We'll see you later.